So good afternoon, everyone. I am excited to kick off day 2 of our Go the Distance District 8 conference. Joining me today for our kickoff, we have Elaine Curry. She is a motivational speaker and she joined St. Clair Toastmasters of Belleville in 2011. She's a past region advisor from 2021 to 2022 and past District 8 director in 2019 through 2020. Elaine retired from Wells Fargo Advisors in St. Louis, Missouri in January of 2017. She spent a total of 43 years in financial services industry. She is a member of the board of directors for a Swiss nonprofit called ASK, which stands for All Special Kids since 2007. Please join me in welcoming distinguished Toastmaster Elaine Curry for Go the Distance.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Welcome, Toastmasters. Now I'm going to ask something first before we get started. If you're just coming back from lunch, make sure you have some water in front of you. And if I see any of the little faces starting to drift off, I'll do something that will, oh, good job, Tom, I see you, following orders. So I want to talk to you today about Go the Distance. And let me share with you a quote that I found that I thought was exceptional and really hits the mark on the head as to something that I want you to keep in mind while we're going through this. I'm going to share my screen. And let me start here. I want to do my, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes, we can, Elaine.
Excellent. Go the distance. Let me share with you a quote. Winners are not people who never fail. They are people who never quit. I read that about 4 times when I was thinking about what I was going to say today. And I thought about it and I applied it to my own life. Winners are not people who never fail. They are people who never quit. I'm going to ask if some of you or whoever feels like they have something that they can say about that. How many of you have really tried hard for something and it didn't work out? Give me an adjective of how it made you feel.
Horrible.
Discouraged. Okay. Keep talking. I've had them all.
Frustrated.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It happened for a reason.
Absolutely. Did my screen go away, guys?
Yes.
Sorry, because I couldn't see. It was covering everything and I couldn't see the other parts. I guess I need to do this as like from here.
And Elaine, while you're getting your PowerPoint back, we have a few more things in chat just to keep it going. We have Art Anderson who said disappointed, Andrew reflective, Monica Rose, things happen for a reason, which I think we already heard. RJ shaking my head, and I think we also heard a frustrated kind of sigh or
Absolutely. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys are going to help me with this today because those are exactly the things that we're going to see. It keeps, how do I get it from not taking up my whole screen? Because I can't see my chat. Oh, maybe if I open my chat, that would help, right? No. That would help. Okay. Oh no, that took the whole screen too. Okay. So all of the things that I'm going to close this down for a second. I'll bring it back up because I'm not using it throughout the whole talking points here. I love the way that you identify how you felt. When you had those feelings, I want you to think about this, and you can put it in the chat for yourself or just make a note for yourself. How long did it last? And I'm going to share with you some of the disappointments I had, because I am a very optimistic person, for those of you who know me, and I'm very upbeat and joyful. And I remember the first time something didn't work out, and I was devastated. There isn't even a term to say, how could that be? Because I always saw myself on the winning edge. And so when I saw this quote, I said, that's it. I kept thinking, if I failed on that, what's happening is I'm not going back to it for all the reasons that you put in the chat: disappointment, fears, reflective, all those things were going through my mind. And I thought, what if I do it again? And what if I fail again? Anybody ever been there more than once? I'm going to raise my hand. And when I was first getting into the securities business, I was working at a bank in Germany. And what happened to me was that I found myself, I wanted to take all of the securities exams so that I could be able to be in the world of the brokerage business. And I took my commodities exam in Paris. I was over the moon. Unfortunately, too much about Paris, not enough about that commodities exam. When I got in that room, the very first question, I wanted to go and ask the instructor, did you give me the right test? Question number two, I thought, I haven't seen any of this, and I know I studied. So they focused on different parts and not what I was studying, which I thought was the key part. Needless to say, you can guess for now, I did not pass the exam. I felt horrible that I had the office pay for me to go to Paris. And I took advantage because I spent a great night. And then I came back down to reality when it was time to go back home. This was a real tough time in my journey in the securities business, because I thought, I'll never take another test again. I'll just stay in the niche that I'm in, and we will go along from there. And when I was asked about, when I saw the theme of this, and I thought about Go the Distance, I began to have flashbacks of all of the situations in my life that I could apply to this. And the biggest one was losing. I just couldn't ever imagine that I wasn't going to achieve every single thing I went after, and on the first time. And this is something that we as Toastmasters, we really have to know that it's okay to fail, as long as you don't quit. You got it. It's okay to fail as long as you don't quit. And I had to learn that, because down the road, I had failure number 2, and I had failure number 3. I'm thinking, I'm on a roll here. Maybe I need to change the direction of my goal, okay? But I got to it, and then came along the victory. And I thought, I said, oh, this is it. This is it. I'm back on track. So now let me ask you a question. What does that say to you? That says to you that if you set the goal never moves. It's you who may run into an obstacle and trip, and you may fall, and you may feel embarrassed. And so when somebody comes over and says, oh, can I help you? No, don't help me. I don't want to be in a pity situation. I wanted to figure out, what did I do wrong? And one of the things I realize is I have to keep my eye on the goal. And so, fellow Toastmasters, I want to encourage you today. I want you to do this speech with me because I want you to check yourself and say, where are those points where all of a sudden I feel like I'm just not going to do this again? And I'm going to go in a different direction because I only want to win. And I'm sure there are a whole bunch of people out there that have been through that mindset and they want to win. And sometimes people have looked at you and put so much trust in you that you feel bad, not only for yourself, but what else? For them. It's like, how could I let them down? How could I have fallen? Now, not only am I on the ground, but so are they. You ever been to an event where when somebody lost and they start crying and everybody else starts crying? I've experienced that when I watch football. That's so silly, but it happens. I am such a Chiefs fan. And the year that they lost that Super Bowl, everybody was crying. The men on the football team were crying. Everybody was so hurt. Now, good news is, how many of y'all know that the Chiefs came back and they won the Super Bowl last year? Yay, I know, that's right. So what we have to learn from these experiences, not only just from our own, but there are others out there. We feel your pain. And as a Toastmaster, I want you to know that when we strive to bring excellence to this Toastmaster district, when one of us fails, we hurt with you. We hurt with you when you're that close to getting a distinguished club or a distinguished area or a distinguished division. We're that close. So not only does that club hurt, that area hurts, that division hurts, and God forbid, to all of my district trio, the trio hurts. We all feel the pain. But here's news for you on the purpose of this talk. We have to learn that once we know where we're going, we gotta go the distance. There's something I used to say to my son all the time because often I felt like he seems to linger around and doesn't really have purpose. And I got this card when I was in a novelty shop in Ghana, Africa. And somebody came up to me, person I didn't know, don't know if I was looking bewildered, and gave me this card. And I opened it up and he said, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. I thought, that's interesting. And I didn't give it too much thought, put the card down and walked around the novelty shop. And lo and behold, it came back to me. It's like he went over and picked it up and said, maybe she didn't see what I was saying. So the card appeared miraculously at the next counter that I went to. And I thought, okay, let me get this card. Ever since then, and that's been over 10 years ago, ever since then, I have seen that applied throughout, especially with people that I deal with that are not sure what their goal in life is. And my son was prime example number one. I would have him saying it to his friends. If you don't know where you're going, first of all, everywhere you go will seem like that's the final destination when it's not. But worst of all, is that you never set a goal so that you can achieve and feel accomplished and feel like I achieved that. And I told him, I said, it's okay to fall down. It's okay to be disappointed. The job you wanted, they didn't hire you. Or they hired you and you messed up and they fired you. It's not the end of the world. It feels like it. Nobody likes to know that somebody else is kicking you out because you were sure, I can do it. I just made a mistake. Everybody may not feel how you feel, but you can do it. So I continuously found myself encouraging people, which is what led me to what I want to do and what I'm able to do now in retirement, and that is to do motivational speaking. I never realized earlier in life that that's what that was. It was encouraging people. It was taking them, and my son got to the point where he would bring his friends up and say, let me let you talk to my mom. Okay. And it was like she talked me off the ledge. She kept me from feeling so bad that I wasn't going to go back and try again. And I said, you have to know, sometimes when you lost, it was needed. And there was a job that I knew 100% I was going to get that job. Went through all the steps of the interview, got through step 3, and I was sitting like in front of the chairman. And guess what? I got that letter that we all hate to get. You know what I'm talking about? The reject letter. Thank you very much for coming and seeing us, and we wish you success. No, my success was supposed to be getting this job. And we sulk. You ever go home and just, I don't even want to get out of bed, don't come talk to me. Let me wallow in this for a minute. Let me get through this so I can get back up. Now I do it differently today. I wasn't always this way. I had to work my way up to learning that I cannot quit. And that's my words for you today. As Toastmasters, I remember years ago when I joined, I think there were about 130 clubs in our district. And today, how many do we have? What is it, 99? Are we that high?
86.
No.
86.
How many?
86.
Okay. How does that make you feel?
Not too good.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? I feel that way with you. And I'm sure many on this screen right now feel that way with you. How did we get there? Because life changes, things change, but we have to know that along the journey, there are going to be some falls, and it's okay. It's okay to fall, but you gotta go the distance. You gotta know this is my goal, and I won't stop until I get there. The goal is gonna always be there. What'll make you feel good is the milestones. Like when I got that far, I struggled to get that DTM while I was in the manuals. And at one point, I just thought, I just can't do another one. Can't do another one. It's taken me forever. I joined Toastmasters in 2011. I finally got my DTM, and it was like 2018. I thought, who thought that it was going to take that long? Not me. I just knew I was the person that could do those speeches and whip right through there. And I want to encourage everybody today that feels like, oh my goodness, this is just, it's not working. I'm not the one. It's not helping me. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. We all need this in our lives so that we can become better, so that we can encourage those that we are in tune and in touch with, and they will become better, and they'll encourage somebody else to become better. So we don't want to make anybody feel like, oh no, they're thinking poorly of me. No, we're not. We're remembering when we were there. And that's what builds you up. That's what helps you to get up off the ground and say, okay, I'm not gonna let this be the end. I see what's going on. I'm gonna reflect. I'm gonna find out what can I do differently. How many of you know the definition of insanity? Raise your hand. You know what I'm gonna say. You know where I'm going. Look at these hands up. Okay, Tom, tell me what's the definition of insanity?
To keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Did you guys get that? I'm sure most of you knew it, but did you get it? And that's a lot of times what happens to us when we don't go the distance and when we don't keep our eye on the goal. We go back and say, okay, I'm gonna try it again. The problem is if you try it again and do the same thing, guess what's gonna happen? You're gonna fall again. Don't let yourself fall in the trap. I'm going to do it again. Maybe there's some things I needed to learn. And that's how I felt when that job that I was telling you about, when I got the reject letter and I thought I was receiving the acceptance letter, I couldn't believe it. It took me a while to pick myself up and say, okay. And I started to realize this is a learning experience. What did I miss that I should have known better? And so what I did, and this is something my husband always encouraged me, but finally dropped my pride and I get it. I called him up and said, can we have a conversation? Just want to find out, is there anything you can tell me that would help me going forward? Most people don't expect you to call them back once you got the reject. They think, okay, they're going on into the sunset. But it made all the difference in the world. And that boss and myself became great friends and they became my mentor. All because I didn't try to go back and do everything the same way I did to get where I was. And we all can sit back and reflect and think about a time and say, you know, that might have been a good idea. You'd be surprised how much they want to help. Nobody wants to see people fail. We just want you to be able to be in the right place at the right time when you've learned the right lessons. See, there were things I didn't know. And I'm going to share an example with you that was a huge teacher in my life. I'm a fast learner. And when I was working in operations, one of the things that I started learning more about, I was in bookkeeping, and we had a telex wire operator. They used to send the orders in to the exchange. And I decided, oh, let me do some cross training. I learned it and they would have me come over and sit with them and I'd be entering the orders and I was so proud when those orders would go through. So one day they wanted to go out to lunch and they said, Elaine, do you think you could handle it? Sure. I was a whiz. I could enter those orders like nothing. Well, they went to lunch and this was not in the era of cell phones, okay? So while they're out at lunch, I'm on my own, okay? The only person I can call is me on another phone sitting there in the office. I was typing away and sending in the order and so proud of myself. The order I had received was to purchase 100 chairs. I purchased 10,000. I panicked. I know. I was like you, Patty, only I was sitting there by myself. There was nobody to see me gasping and catching. And I had not yet learned what do you do when you make a mistake. I prided myself so much on being able to learn quickly and know how to do it. I never asked what happens when I make a mistake. Needless to say, 20 minutes later, when they finally came back, and that was the longest 20 minutes of my life. And I said, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? And they came and they said, don't worry. I'm supposed to buy 100 shares and I bought 10,000 shares. And now what? I thought for sure they're going to fire me and take my salary for the next 5 years. And they said, no, what we're going to do is we're going to enter the order. We're going to contact our error desk. We're going to enter the order and we're going to sell those back. And the difference is the loss, not the whole purchase. The difference between selling it back and reducing it to the number you should buy. Now, needless to say, I breathed a huge sigh of relief, but it didn't help me feel much better because I kept thinking, yeah, they're probably thinking, oh, we can't leave her alone anymore. You ever feel that way? You ever feel like people aren't going to ever trust you again? That's how I felt. I felt like this is it. I should have known better. I should have thought about, I need to know who to go ask if something happens. Is there a number I can call? I just was so full of myself that I didn't think about that. And we have to be careful of that when we make a milestone and don't realize that there's still a distance to go and there's still a possibility that you may fall. Doesn't mean you can't get back up, but there's still a possibility that you'll have to stumble a couple of times before you really get it right. So I want to tell you today the importance of, number one, keeping your eye on the goal. Just because you fall, when you get up, look ahead and say, oh man, I still got a ways to go. Let me get up. And if somebody's coming by and you need help, you know what? Ask them. Don't be afraid to ask them. So many people give up. They cover their eyes, they cover everything because they're just too ashamed to go back and say, what can I do about this? I had to get over that. I didn't realize, I never realized how much pride I had, but I learned. And I said, I am the best person in the world now to admit when I make mistakes. Karen, I must admit, you inspired me when you said, I own this. I said, look at that. I'm going to steal that word. I own this. I'm going to say it's my fault and I own it. And instead of feeling embarrassed about it, instead of feeling, oh my goodness, I'm never going to do this again. I can't do it. I just can't make it that far. I realized, yes, I can. And only because when I did fall, I put aside my pride. I put out my hand and I said, can you help me? The most important words I ever learned in my life, can you help me? And you'd be surprised how people respond to that question. I learned a lot of quotes and things along the way, and I constantly repeat them back to myself. And one of them is the one that I had Tom say, insanity is doing the same thing the same way, but expecting a different result. Doesn't work that way. Know that when you get up, dust yourself off, figure out, what do I do different so I don't fall at the next one? And I'm sure the guy who punted the year that the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, and he punted and he hit that goal post and they lost. And I'm sure he didn't want to go back to that pitch. I wouldn't have. People were throwing things at their TV. Oh my God. We have to know that when we make that mistake, he also gets credit for correcting whatever it was that he did, but he didn't make that mistake again. And so we have to live and do our work in that same way. And I attribute it to Toastmasters because the one beauty that Toastmasters offered that no other type of training or course offered is self-pace. I can take as long, who would have thought that I could take up to 8 years to get a DTM? Normally you expect by the end of the school year, I should be accomplished, but I didn't. I did quit for a little bit, not quit Toastmasters, but I quit trying as hard. I quit trying to figure out, how do I do this speech? How do I do that project? And then I had to talk to myself. I had to have a little conversation with me. I said, you're always motivating others. Now it's time to talk to you. It's time to sit down, assess the situation, and determine, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go after it again. And lo and behold, I had a burst of energy between when I retired in 2017. From that point of retirement to 2018, and I got my DTM like the day before the elections. So if I was elected, I would be a DTM. And if I wasn't elected, I was still going to be a DTM. But the beauty of it was, I didn't let it make me quit. I kept trying and trying and trying. And that's my encouragement to each and every person here today. You may have some milestones and they'll feel real good, but you're also going to have some falls. And it's okay. It's okay. They may make you feel bad, but only for a little while. Because we are made as Toastmasters to recover. We don't ever stay on the ground and let people run over us. We recover. We get up. We brush ourselves off and we keep going because we know where we're going. We have goals, and Toastmasters teaches you that, how to set the goals and how to keep on working toward the goals, where leaders are made. And I use so many of the Toastmasters slogans and ways and habits. It's amazing because now people come and they look for me. Oh, that Toastmaster woman. Half of them don't know my name. It's that woman that's always talking to us about Toastmasters. And yes, that's me. I'm the one. And I was at an event yesterday, and I had been invited. Our Speakers Bureau, by the way, I'm going to encourage you, join the Speakers Bureau because people call Toastmasters when they're looking for speakers. And RJ was kind enough to call me up and ask me if I was interested in an engagement where this church group was looking for a speaker. They do all kinds of things, and once a month they have a lunch and learn. And they were looking for somebody to come out, present, and talk to the group. And RJ gave me a call because he knows I'm very much into ministry work. I said, sure. I talked to the lady and I said, well, what is it that you're looking for? She said, well, we choose a subject every month and we'd like to talk about spring. And of course I thought, I may not be the one for spring. I know nothing. I am terrible at gardens. I know nothing about plants. I said, would you mind if I make a suggestion? After she told me the audience that we'd be talking to, seniors, I would say probably the youngest was 70 and maybe the oldest was 85 or so. I said, do you mind if I choose a topic for you? And she said, no, not at all. We come up with these things, well in advance. And because April was bringing spring, that's why we came up with that. So I said, I'd like to talk to the group about journaling your legacy. And at first, I'm sure she pondered a bit. And I said, look, let me send you a little bit of information of what I'm talking about. And I shared my story. I said, I did not know anything about my dad's family. My dad's family, they were raised in Bimini in the Bahamas. He joined the Army, so our family traveled around. We were never around any of his family. And I said in the end, when it came time, and my dad passed away in 1987, so we're talking a number of years ago. Today, even, I thought, I know so little about his family. And what triggered me to start doing what I was telling them yesterday is that my dad's niece, her mother had passed away. She had an obituary, which a copy of my father's obituary was there. She said, you know what? Let me call this church and see if they're still involved, because they didn't know us either. My dad being in the military, we all traveled so far away. They called the church. My family has been there 50 years. They're still there. And she was ecstatic. She ended up getting the telephone number of my older sister, called them up, and here we are today. I'm connected with a family. My dad had 10 kids in his family. I couldn't name 5 of them. How many pictures do I have? Very few. How much do I know about my family? Very little. Now we're all energized. We want to have a family reunion. We want to do these things. And I thought, this could be a subject for these people. I wonder how many of them live far away. They're not around their kids. They're not around their grandkids. How many of them will know about you when you're gone on? And I decided I'm going to make sure that for my son's family forward to the future, I want them to know my name. I want them to be able to say, they call me Granny, and I want them to be able to say going forward, I know Granny, here's my story. So I said, I'm going to encourage you guys to start writing a journal. And I said, now, I realize not everybody is able to write journals on a computer or even by hand. As we get older, we get arthritis and all these kind of things. But what I do know that we all can do is that we all can either record something with our voice and have somebody help us to transcribe that. You can take pictures and you can bring captions and make them come to life. You can ask somebody else to journal it. My girlfriend, who is, her father just passed away 2 weeks ago. He's 98 years old. He was hoping to make it to 100. But he asked her, would she start journaling, and he would talk it out. He only speaks Chinese. So she speaks Burmese and some Chinese, but they didn't speak the same Chinese. I said, that must have been a challenge. But the bottom line was, he passed away and they were all hoping he was going to make it to 100. Well, he didn't. But she's got a lot of notes to pass on to the generations going. I was so happy to do that for that group, and I got a response back from the lady who organized it. She said, they love you. They love you. They love the topic. She said at lunch, they were all sitting down and buzzing and talking about, oh, and I'm going to put this photo album together. And the other one, she said, I can't wait to just sit down and tell you how you inspired them. So always know that we have a way to work together. That's one of the things I love about Toastmasters. I formed a network of friends, people that I know now. My first person that I really met in Toastmasters is Herman Kester. So I've known Herman now since 2011. And he is a true Toastmaster. I thought, Herman, if you ever go anywhere, what will we do? The guy knows everything. His heart is in it. And it encourages me to say, I want to be that for somebody. I want to be somebody that they feel, I want to come and glean from your energy and from the way that you're so excited about what you're talking about. I even had them talking about Toastmasters, and these people knew nothing about Toastmasters, but I said, at Toastmasters, we clap when somebody says something. So I had them all sitting here clapping and everything. And the bottom line is, that came through the Speakers Bureau of Toastmasters. She called, she was looking for a speaker. And I happened to be the lucky one. So be involved in everything that we have. Look and find the goals. And let's all make the distance together. Let's just pick each other up, hold each other by the hand. You fell down for a minute, that's okay. Let you and I work together. Once you're up and you're ready to go again, let's do it. And that's what I want to leave you with as my message today. Don't give up. Even with ever 86 clubs or 96, whatever we have. Don't give up. Don't think, oh man, District 8 is gone to the dogs. We haven't. We haven't. The goal is still there. We may have hit a goal post now and again, and the ball may have bounced back, but we're going to go the distance. We are going to find our way there. And I know that there's enough people in this district that it's going to keep it going. They're going to encourage us. We're going to encourage each other. We're going to make it. I'm looking forward to the new trio. I'm pleased as punch with the existing trio and even the trios that came before me back in the time when Tom was a district governor. Because I think he was the first district governor that I encountered where my time when I came in. What year were you district governor, Tom?
I was 2011-12.
There you go. I joined 2011. So whenever we have these events, Tom was the person, the first one that I knew that was the district governor at that time. And look, here we are, 2023. Here we are, still working together in District 8. And I love it. And for that reason, I love this district because we're resilient. We keep it going. Sure, people come, people go, but the core of this district. So know that you're in a good place. And we will rock you. And we'll make it. And I can't wait to see when I get old, like those seniors were out there. I'm approaching it quite quickly. I keep thinking getting there, but I'm approaching it. I just get excited because I'm so happy to know that we never, ever, ever have to quit. We just don't. We may fall down, but I'm gonna tell you, we can get back up. And I'm going to stop here to ask if there's any questions, any comments. This is about all of us sharing our experiences. What stopped you or stalled you when you wanted to go the distance and you fell down and you thought, can't do this anymore? Oh, yes, you can. Yes, you can. So I'll turn it back over and see if there's any questions that I can answer for you. And hopefully you're getting some food for thought. And I want to see you at the finish line, my friends, not in the middle, at the finish line. Thank you.
And Elaine, you have your first hand up, Miss Karen Lange, our District 8 Director. So go right ahead, Karen.
So Elaine, I just want to share that when I was growing up, I was always successful. I was always the person who did things and I usually did well. And I had a fear of failure. And then I got married and it was not a good situation. And the divorce was coming and I was afraid of the divorce. I was afraid that I would be a failure and everyone would see me as a failure. So I want to go slightly different than go to distance. That failed marriage was the best thing in my life. And it wasn't because I got away from him. It was because I knew I could fail and come back. And so that no failure was not permanent. You can always recover from it. And just since I no longer had that fear, I can now go and push my limits and find out, hey, what's going to happen? I'm going to fall down. Big deal. I can get right back up. So thanks for sharing your message.
And I love it. I love it. Give her a hand.
And next hand up is Raul.
Okay. Hi, Raul.
Hey, Elaine, that was super motivational. Awesome. Truly authentic from the heart. As I always say, if you show authenticity, people will connect with you. And that's exactly what was here today. A couple of points I really liked what you mentioned. There is a subtle difference between asking, do you need help versus can you help me? There's a big change in outcome that happens. And this comes as a firsthand experience with my younger daughter. Whenever I ask her, or whenever me and my wife ask her, do you need help? She says, back off. I will try to figure it out. And when it gets to the breaking point, that's when she says, can you please help me? So there is that difference, which helps. We have to be patient. You also mentioned we have to have eye on the ball, very important. And I would add over there, just don't be satisfied with a single goal, always be in an infinite game, because you keep the goalpost moving. That's when you will be motivated to keep on achieving, keep on progressing. Otherwise, if you achieve one goal, you'll be satisfied and stagnate. So that's what I have experienced. Another point, and sorry, Sarah, I'm taking.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, you're fine, Raul. I'm not taking the hook out or anything. You're doing great.
One more point that I wanted to bring up is until you ask, you will never automatically or magically get help. And that is so true. I've told that to my kids. I've told that to my wife too. Obviously, she doesn't like that at times when I tell that, but I still tell that. I'm very persistent. And it is very important to ask for help, because if you don't, nobody will magically have a mind reading capability to find out, oh, he or she needs help. So please ask for help. Also, I'm stealing something from
No,
Karen's
you
line.
steal away, steal away.
Yeah, I'm stealing something from Karen's line earlier. She said she has this agility and nimbleness to avoid the bus tires. So be alert and always be nimble to avoid those bus tires. It is very important. So your journaling thing really inspired me, because that is something which is across generations, generation
Yes.
agnostic. It is age agnostic, gender agnostic. So it is completely a diversity play. So I really love that idea. One last thing that I would like to say is, and this is something which is extra in addition to what you said, never compare yourself with others, because they are in their own game. You chart your own path and excel in that path. Never be in the rat race.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness, we need to have him come and speak after me. I loved it. Thank you. And to your point, the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
The goal is always infinity.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to keep moving forward. Thank you so much for those comments. You've inspired me.
Sure.
And Elaine, next we have 2 more hands up. And
Okay.
we'll wrap it up. So next
Okay.
up is our incoming District 8 Director, Rhonda Green.
Elaine, thank you for a wonderful, absolutely wonderful presentation. I've had many failures in my life. I failed in 2 marriages where I was abused and had other issues, but I am happily divorced now. In Toastmasters alone, I have lost 4 district elections, and I'm still standing and I'm still surviving. And when we share the fact that we have had failures in this life, in real life and in Toastmasters, we show each other we may have failed, but we learned from those failures and we are continuing to grow. And I will take from your speech, any path is okay if you don't have a direction. It doesn't even matter. So that path, your goals to you are more important than anything. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's wonderful. I love that type of motivation. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. And Elaine, last one, RJ, our
My buddy.
District Director. Yes.
RJ and I are
Elaine.
buddies. Boom, boom.
As always, words of wisdom and nuggets just come out of nowhere. You always amaze me. I just wanted to share something though that was near and dear to my heart. What you did at this last speaking event that you were at, and even shared here during this keynote. You know, it's important to realize this, and I'll just share this with everybody myself. And I think I've had this conversation with you before, different times. In my early 20s, I started my first journal. I've amassed over 4 or 5 journals now over 40 years. And you want to know what started it all? And this may be a nugget for everybody to take to heart. I started along the same lines of what you were talking about, with the whole idea or the premise, I was going to leave this to my grandson to maybe help him overcome obstacles or maybe some words of wisdom. And it was not just day-to-day experiences. It was like, for instance, in my real estate career, how to overcome financial obstacles, how to overcome, and it was word detail, how I did it and how I went about it. So I highly encourage you to start journals. I read back through them now, sometimes what I wrote in my 20s, and it amazes me how much of a difference or how far I've come anyway. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Thanks, RJ. RJ and I, we often sit down and just share. And I appreciate the friendship and I appreciate what we learn from each other. Thank you. Okay, Sarah, now I'm turning it back over to you.
Wait, don't go too far. I'm not going to let you out of the limelight yet, but everyone can come off of mute. Let's give Elaine a big round of applause for an inspirational keynote of our theme of the conference, Go the Distance. So thank you, Elaine.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you. Woo. Woo-hoo.
And with that being said, I'm going to stop the recording and thank you so much, Elaine, for offering your time today so we can learn from you and how to get better and how to face challenges in the future. So thank you.